kick things off.
Thanks, Amy. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Joko. I am the Principal Solutions Architect for DSD Business Systems and one of the events member for acu-CONNECT. Today, we have a great expert panel discussion on trends in the construction business. And we have a lot of participants from different areas. We have Joel Hoffman from Acumatica ERP on the line. We have John Gabriz and Mary Shields from Gale Force Partners, as well as Daniel Collins from Strategies Group, all experts in the construction edition for Acumatica. Before I move on to the panel, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Donna Krizik from Krizik Marketing, and I'm gonna let her talk about a special event that we have at acu-CONNECT coming up in September. So over to you, Donna.
Thanks, Chris. For those of you who may not know, the acu-CONNECT group, the mission here is to learn how to solve problems through education and subject matter experts from Acumatica partners. And we get together and we provide these community webinars and other learning opportunities, and really grow our network of shared resources and try to collaborate. And everybody is welcome. And what we want to make sure everybody knows about is our acu-CONNECT 2023 conference, which we're having John Case as our keynote speaker on the second day. The dates of this are September 13 and 14, and I will drop the link to register or learn more in the chat. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Donna. So just a little housekeeping. This is our agenda for today. Number one, I'm going to introduce Joel Hoffman to give us a little background for those of you that don't have Acumatica Construction Edition or are interested in what Acumatica Construction Edition is. And then we'll jump into some questions with our panel. After our panel is, we've gone through some of our questions, and we'll jump into some open Q&A. Amy will look out in the chat box and see if there are any questions that our expert panel can answer for you. And, after that, we'll just go ahead and sign off after that. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Joel Hoffman. And Joel, let us know what Acumatica Construction Edition is.
All right. Thanks, Chris. And appreciate the opportunity to speak today and be in front of everybody. I'm Joel Hoffman, Director of Product Management for the Construction Edition. I've been with Acumatica a little over 4 years, but I have a several decade experience in the construction software space. And what's nice about the Acumatica Construction Edition is it's just another layer, another opportunity for folks using Acumatica that now may have a specific business need around construction, which would be more extensive job costs and field reporting and different things coming together, all in the XRP platform, and then bundled together to put that together for folks that might use a construction edition. So from a construction side, as you see on the screen with the little flower graphic, construction financials, that means adding retainage and cost codes and different things related to financial processing, your job cost accounting, now being able to produce construction work in progress reports and do AIA billing and things that are going together, your payroll, union, certified payroll, things that are all important to the construction industry. And then with our construction project management, if the teams need to do things like a daily field report or an RFI, a submittal, or maybe it's an issue that's out in the field needs to go through, we have a construction project management component. And then from various solutions out there in the construction marketplace, and we have different integrations that might be coming through, whether it's tied to an HR system, or maybe it's more advanced project management and document management. These are all coming together from the Acumatica platform itself and then integrating along with the construction edition. So we think of really like the full circle of what happens within construction and why folks come to Acumatica for construction and the general financials is how can we consolidate and get things into a single source of the truth. So now where multiple silos might be out there, from construction and estimating field applications to help manage and merge those things together, which then provides that 360-degree view of every project. How we're looking at the forecast. Maybe we're going out and we're doing change orders and doing adjustments, but keeping the team involved with that, with things like the mobile application. Maybe it's time collection that it comes in. And I think as we look at the panel discussion, we'll talk about some of those things that are advantages to it, because that all goes back to increased profitability. How can we help construction businesses turn a larger profit? Because construction typically works with a very thin profit margin on their projects. So anything that technology can lend to that to now help those companies is what you see within the construction edition. And then, as you know, with Acumatica being the true cloud solution, any kind of IT costs are limited and brought down, with the financial package all tied in within the Acumatica platform, getting all the robust financials, then being able to provide customers information. It really all comes back to how does that get together and allow our customers, in this case, even construction, going through and get faster issue resolution, and how can I even get things out to the field? So what we'll talk about today are different areas of that, but this gives you a good picture of how those different components work within the Acumatica Construction Edition and what we can bring to clients and an Acumatica solution.
Thanks, Joel. All right, let's jump into question number 1. I don't see any current questions in the chat, so I'm going to start, ladies first. Obviously, we're going to start this off with Mary. What are some of the key advantages of implementing Acumatica Construction Edition for a business, and how does it really enhance the overall efficiency of managing things like expenses and financial data?
Well, Acumatica is easy to use, and it is a true cloud solution. It allows clients to manage all aspects of project accounting and document management in one central area with a consistent experience for all of the users. So instead of having important documents on various local drives, on servers, on the bottom of somebody's truck, everything is in one central location. So instead of having only a few employees with access to the financial data, everyone can have access. It's a single source that you can access anywhere at any time.
Awesome. John, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think to tag on a bit to what Mary said is the reason having everything in one place is important is that we see different types of customers come to us, or clients, companies, if you will. And some come from a very, they got 4 or 5 different systems, and it's getting to be, as they're growing, it's just getting to be too much, and they can't handle it. They're making more mistakes putting things in between systems and having them in one. That's a big advantage. On the side where people already have a project system in place, we generally see the level of granularity that you can use Acumatica for in terms of revenue recognition versus billing, and the timings can be different, as well as budgeting and forecasted budgeting, where you don't just say, I'm going to do a 1,000-hour project on building this house. Instead, it's 200 hours this month, 100 next month. That gives a PM a better look at the trend that's coming ahead of them. And of course, it all can be on their phone or their notepad as they're out in the field or in their truck, also doing the same thing. So this whole all-in-one single source of truth is extremely helpful, but so is the technology that releases it. And the structure in Acumatica is just, I think, brilliant in the way it's laid out, and how you can actually see everything about a project in one screen. I don't have to go to too many places.
Yeah, that one tab with the balances is definitely key. It's a key thing that when I show clients, it's definitely something that draws their eyes to see that there. Daniel, do you want to add to that?
Sure. So one of the things that we see that's really great in Acumatica is the flexibility of bucketing of costs. So you can put them in specific, task structures, cost codes, account groups that's for that company. So we've seen it obviously 100 different ways between all our different customers. Everyone wants it a little bit different, and you can do it, right? You can create the structure to where costs flow through the system in a way that you can manage what you want to manage. So they can get restrictions in place. They can get their budgets in a certain way that they know where these costs are going, and they know when they're over budget or when they're coming up to being over budget.
Definitely. Joel, anything from the publisher side that you want to throw in here?
Sure. And to piggyback on those things, you mentioned that the balances tab, we like to think of that as a little project P&L statement, right there on the screen it's going through. But if you think about the companies that are out there, and as I mentioned earlier, the profit margins, and the certain results and different surveys say they think that level of profit margin might go down over the coming years that are going through. And that's where something like Acumatica comes into play with the integrated project management, the change orders, cash flow. How can you start to monitor that? Because really, one of the things that you find out from a publisher is, productivity increases in companies that are collaborative, right? So as we're coming through, is how can we help our customers collaborate with the different areas of their organization? Is overall, that's where you find that the productivity increases, visibility increases. Now you have the ability to get back and get those workflows that we'll see maybe a little bit later on too, is how to pull that together. So I think just from a publisher standpoint, how can we help our customers go ahead and collaborate across the organization is really one of the aspects that we look at as we develop new functionality.
Awesome. Thank you all. That was great. All right. I think the next question that we had brought up, given to us for this panel is, how can construction companies effectively, manage inventory, hopefully to optimize project performance, minimize the costs again, and, ensure timely completion, definitely being in an ERP system, being able to manage inventory related to projects is definitely important. So Daniel, do you want to start us off here?
Sure. So this is something we've seen a lot of our customers come in not really doing inventory, right? They're not calculating it, but they've got it. They've got it in the warehouse. And one of the efficiencies we've seen them add is now they're tracking it. They don't have to buy that part to do a job and wait 6 months with supply chain issues, things like that. They've got it in the warehouse. In the same vein, when they take all their material to the site and they don't use it all, they do bring it back, and now they can basically issue it back to the warehouse. And so they know where everything is at all points in time. One of the great advancements that Acumatica has made is the project specific inventory. Being able to pinpoint where everything is gives you the data to know where
Hey, Amy, I think we accidentally muted everybody for some reason.
Yeah, it looks like everybody got
Yes,
muted.
sorry, hold on. I don't know what just happened.
Sorry, Daniel.
I just asked him to unmute.
It's all right. It was a great explanation. Where'd y'all drop out?
Sorry about that. I
Did
don't
y'all
know
drop
what I
out
just
before
did.
or after I explained how to make millions of dollars? Was that?
I think it dropped out before you started talking about project specific inventory.
Gotcha. Yeah. Just the fact that they have a way of tracking where is it on the project, and knowing at all times where your inventory is can prevent delays. So if your crew gets there and the stuff's not there to install, well, you've just lost a lot of time and a lot of money. So those kind of insights are valuable and critical in a lot of cases. So we've seen customers start using inventory and realize the efficiencies that they gain because of that.
Absolutely. Mary, John, anything you want to add to that?
I mean, Dan pretty much covered it.
Yeah.
And it is very important. I can't tell you how many times we had to go send people to a job site to see what was there, because we know the material shift. We knew we wrote a purchase order. We knew the stuff was on site, and we've got the crew calling and saying, oh, well, I can't find it. And lo and behold, there's rebar buried in the mud. Nobody looked hard enough, and it really, it can cause overruns very quickly on a project. And inventory, you're correct, is one of the things that construction companies typically ignore. And you just end up with a bunch of material in your warehouse that now you're repurchasing over and over again when it's just sitting there. So
Mhm.
it's a great option for folks to start using.
Absolutely. I mean, I really like that the ability to save on some process too with the drop ship features with project specific inventory, being able to just enter that PO and just receive it towards that job and cost it toward the job saves a lot of time, having to go through a lot of processes if you're not even trying to ship product out to the job site. So definitely a lot of efficiency there with the project and inventory. Joel, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, what I found interesting in actually talking to some customers over the last few years, and because of the supply chain and things, companies that didn't typically store inventory, some have even built their own warehouse or built a warehouse on a location to now have it. So they know that when they're doing the project, they have the materials available, things have been ordered. They're not waiting. Oh, we're up to this point. Now we got to wait 6 weeks for the material to be delivered. So I thought that was an interesting shift from some construction companies that they didn't used to want to deal with inventory or things, but because of what's happened with the delays and such, some people are now bringing that in and now storing it. Again, as we've mentioned, the project level inventory is very good, and the drop ships. We're talking to someone the other day. They were talking with the materials. They go out, the person orders the materials, and then he goes to the warehouse like, hey, where's it going? And the person's there, why'd you order those materials? He said, come here. He went back to a different area of the warehouse, and there they are. Now we just got $50,000 worth of more stuff that we already had sitting in the warehouse. So that ability to track what's there is very important just for any kind of cost overruns and what might happen. So definitely something that is increasing from a view of companies and what I've seen over the last couple of years.
Awesome. All right, let's move on. Everybody's favorite, analytics, when it comes to tracking data, whether that's inside of Acumatica or our trusty friend Excel. From an analytics side, what different types of reporting options that are available, what are available in Acumatica, and how do we use these options to really contribute to data analysis and making decisions in overall just generating comprehensive and insightful reports. Joel, you want to kick us off on this one?
Sure. So again, think technology, and you mentioned Excel, right? Everybody still has their safe Excel spreadsheets, and we're not foolish enough to think we're going to replace every Excel spreadsheet out there from a view. But now, how can we help people build on that, or how can we replace things that might be out there? Because it really comes down to how timely folks get the information to be able to make those strategic decisions, right? What can we get in, and now viewing that information while on the go, right? You have the analytics and with the mobile capabilities and the anytime, anywhere, be able to start to look at it. And those updates provide that information quickly, and you're not making outdated decisions or struggling to fill what the spreadsheet might be before you go on into a meeting. And a couple examples that we see from a dashboard. So Acumatica has a great dashboard tool. This is an example of a customer, the CFO dashboard, where you can see they're tracking things like their sales and their profit to date, where they're coming through, which people owe them, the money. So as they're looking at things, where do we need to start to focus it? What's the cash flow that's coming through? That type of analytic information now eliminates that incomplete data, if you will. Because if you think of the incomplete data now, changing or really slowing down that feedback loop that you can make for the different decision makings. And I think the next one is an example of a project manager, not only from a finance side, but now think as you're running through the projects themselves, what's overdue? Where should I be spending my day? And that's what's great about the colorization of this as well. Let them focus where they should on their daily activities, so they can drill right in and start to see what needs to happen there. Who are we waiting for? What's going on? And that's things like our dashboards, and be able to gauge that from that, or even kick off different events are very good from an analytical perspective.
Daniel, anything you want to add on some of these reporting options that you've seen with your client base?
Yeah, this is my favorite topic. So I try not to talk about it every time I talk, but it's hard. I think Acumatica's ability to give you data out of the system is just fantastic. And not only just data, but actionable data, right? So Joel mentioned it. You can bring or surface things that need to be actioned on by a PM or a controller, whoever it may be. Put it on a dashboard, make it a widget that turns red when won, and then they drill into it. You can actually see the transaction there. So you can actually fix it from that GI screen underneath. I think it's pretty incredible the power that you have building those reports. So that's my favorite part of the system, the generic inquiry. It is the foundation of dashboards, business events. I mean, working screens. You can put side panels on generic inquiries to be able to actually process through all your daily activities there. I've actually put a dashboard in a side panel, which was really cool. So there's like 1,000,001 ways you can splice things in Acumatica, and where, the 90% of the problems that Acumatica is solved for out of the box, where that's not enough, you can fix the other 10% with those options. There's so much flexibility. You can build a business event. You can add a new generic inquiry. You can make a dashboard for somebody. I just think that's a fantastic piece that Acumatica delivers. And an example here is one of our user dashboards. When you're implementing, you have to test, right? So this is kind of a tracking tool to see who's actually in the system processing changes, because you could either go in and check transaction by transaction, who changed this, stuff like that, or you could load this up and see what has this D. Collins person done in the system recently. You can see if they're actually testing.
Awesome.
Mhm.
John, anything you want to add? I think you might be on mute, but if you want to unmute and see if you want to add to the kind of reporting features here.
Yeah, I think one thing when I look at the dashboards and the ones that we've seen here, they are great. You can't deny that. The thing we run into the most, and I think it's construction industry specific, is these folks, especially the PMs, they're coming off of paper and pencil or writing something down on the pad. And I think the thing you've always got to be cautious of, and then we have to be cognizant of, we have to simplify what they're looking at and not give them too much. Put it in one place, give them one dashboard. And I've done more with our clients where I've given them a single dashboard page, and they do everything from there, from time entry into crew time entry, as well as getting their analytics, in widgets. So that simplicity is what we need to do, I know, when we implement, and bring that down into the level of that person who's got to go out there every day. The other part I see a lot is subcontractor management is always an issue, and being able to let them come in on a portal page that you can design and let them, change the paradigm as to how subcontractors are handled. Because if it's easier for them to work with you, they'd rather work with you than somebody else. How do you make their life easier administratively for what you want to do, and at the same time give the PMs immediate information about, did they show up, how many hours did they put in? And we work with our clients on that on a pretty regular basis. Those are the two things I always have my antenna up for whenever I'm working with a construction client.
Nice. It's that digital transformation that we're always talking about, right? Getting them off of that paper and pencil or paper and pen into a digital system, and being able to have everybody contribute, and not just one person taking that paper and rekeying it back into whatever system that they're using. That's great.
Anytime there's a change in technology, I can't use my phone again. I know that much. So we've got to be patient enough to work with those folks and get them into something like this.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Mary,
you talk
anything
about the transformation, and I like a one reference I heard somebody talk about when you think of just the technology adoption, right? Well, there used to be a Palm Pilot for those of us who might remember Palm Pilots. Well, now you got the iPhone, right? So
That's way before me.
And what makes it simple? iPhone, very easy to go through. Palm Pilot, well, yeah, while I could do some things, you're not going to navigate your way through. And it's good to see companies embracing the technology and the transformation, and really starting to take care of it.
Absolutely. Mary, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's so customizable that, you know, you can limit what people see, so they only see what they need to see. And,
Yeah.
you know, you know, you've got these, you know, superintendents and PMs. They don't care about accounting. They don't want to hear it. You know,
Right.
they want to see what they need to see. And you're able to do that, you know, and interact with them and give them the information they need without having, you know, a parade of you know, project personnel coming into the finance office and having to ask someone for that information. It's just not efficient, not at all. And it gives everyone the ability to participate, as you said.
Yeah. And then for those that don't have Acumatica, I mean, the reason that Acumatica can provide all of this information is, you know, the unlimited user license capabilities of Acumatica and using those role-based security to be able to give people access, anybody in your organization or including subcontractors, like John mentioned, really just giving that ability to let everybody in, see what they're allowed to see, do what they're allowed to do, you know, really does cut down on those processing times a lot with, you know, utilizing Acumatica. That's great. All right, let's see here. Let me get to the next question. So, like, again, kind of on that topic of digital transformation, you know, how can integrating an ERP with automation tools like Acumatica, you know, benefit construction businesses in terms of project management, resource allocation, overall operational efficiency? You know, what kinds of examples of tasks have you seen? Let's start with you, Mary. That you've seen to automate that will enhance kind of the user's experience with Acumatica?
The biggest thing that I found as an end user and also as now a consultant is approval of AP invoices by the project managers. That was the bane of my existence for many years.
Yeah.
You know, they never had time to come in the office, and now, you know, now they can approve them on their phone. You know, no more stacks of paper, no more losing invoices. I mean, it was wonderful. When I was an end user, we were able to go paperless within weeks of implementing Acumatica. It was a huge time saver. And compliance issues, lien releases, insurance certificates, you know, subcontractor licensing. You know, that was something that was always very difficult to get your arms around. And you know, you don't want to pay anybody who's not in compliance, right?
Right.
So having all of that in one location and being able to access it from multiple areas of the software was really instrumental in making sure that all of our subs were compliant.
Awesome. Daniel, how about you?
Yeah, so some areas that kind of, I guess, more surprised me than not, were sending out of reminders or, hey, your invoice is overdue. You can set some of that up on an automation. This hasn't been paid in 30 days. Send this email to the customer. So now instead of paying someone to chase people down, I've got the system emailing it out. And then we already talked about this, but surface that on somebody's dashboard. This is something someone should look into. It's been 60 days.
Sure.
I think those activities being automated is hugely beneficial because it's not wasting workforce on it anymore. You've got a system running those things in the background. And that's just one example of obviously a multitude of things that could be systematized.
Yeah, but definitely getting rid of those repeatable tasks or those monotonous tasks that some people have been doing in the past, you know, definitely increases some productivity there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
John, anything on your side?
I think there's a stigma that's attached to the construction industry, which is whatever date they give you, they're always going to miss it. You know, it's going to be late and it's never going to get done. So if you attack that from a top-down level, and although I mentioned before about, you know, the subcontractor portal, I mean, being able to expedite POs and let them change their own expected date, link that with business events, as we've been talking about, that also takes a look at what you were projecting to deliver on the project, at least opens up a communication channel where the customer can come in on their portal and you could be showing them, here's the status of your project. They just want to be talked to and communicated with. And it's really difficult right now because the PM's out all day. And before he gets back to either call his customer or forgets about it till next week, customer's agitated. And next thing you know, they're late on the project. You know, so being able to tie these together in what I'll call the customer to supplier chain, including your subcontractors, this is a major issue to at least get people closer to delivering on time, at least making people feel good. If it's going to be a little late, they at least know why, if nothing else.
Nice. Joel, I know you go to a lot of trade shows, construction trade shows, things like that. You know, any of those Acumatica tools like stand out when you talk to some of these prospective construction companies looking at systems like Acumatica?
Yeah, absolutely. And when Mary was talking, it reminded me, just think of our expense receipts, being able to scan that on your phone. And in the past, where all the receipts are sitting up on somebody's dashboard, crammed up against the glass, and you know, oh, they lost it or didn't turn it in. Right. So I mean, that things like just simple things like scanning the expense receipt. You know, you don't think it's a big deal, but it does. It starts to bring all these things together, because what I continually hear is, you know, how do we resolve questions quicker? What kind of things are leading to a faster resolution time? Just like John was mentioning about delays or things, because if you're doing a project issue out in the field, being able to take a picture and say, hey, something's wrong here, have that trigger an event back that might now have somebody look at it back in the office. Now you're coming in and that might lead to a change order. You know, it's all about how quickly that communication and really the speed that helps clarity of any kind of communication, right? And now what kind of tools like our mobile app or those business events that trigger off a certain idea, a certain data point that goes together. And ultimately, you know, what it's all about is risk management, right? Being able to mitigate that risk with up-to-date information and timely information, and there's things like our mobile application and details and even having it available for those meetings is what people continually say. And what I hear at the different events is, you know, how can we make things simpler for everybody? How can we keep that communication flow going?
Absolutely. Thank you all for that. All right, I think I have one last question, you know, and it's regarding, you know, attracting top talent, right? And so how can users of Acumatica's Construction Edition, you know, not only attract top talent, but retain those employees that you have currently on staff? You know, what kinds of examples, you know, of Acumatica features that really appeal to, you know, the new workforce and maybe increasing job satisfaction for those who may have been doing a lot of paper and pencil in the past? Daniel, I'll start with you.
I think some of the things we've already covered actually are the keys here. So your automation of repetitive tasks. If you bring in, let's say, a top talent individual to your company, you're excited about them joining the workforce, and day one, they learn all they're going to be doing is clicking these 4 buttons in a row for the rest of the day. They're probably going to disengage or look for another job. So if you can automate those repetitive things and let them do some higher level problem solving, kind of put their skill set to use, they're going to be more engaged. You're going to get more from them, because if you don't, you stand the risk of losing them or losing their engagement. You can have a disengaged employee, which is sometimes just as bad. So
absolutely,
I think that's key. The fact that you've got all these reporting tools, you've got the automation of your repetitive tasks that they may not have to perform anymore. I think a new UI is actually helpful as well. It's kind of a squishy thing, but if you log in and it doesn't look like it was written in 92, it's probably pretty good, right? So coming from a legacy system where that was the case, that's one of those value adds that it's hard to put a number on, but that's something people consider.
Absolutely. Mary, any insight on this?
Well, I mean, I think the access to the information and the ability to access the system anytime and anywhere is huge. I mean, the days of the VPN and my computer's not working and the server's down. I mean, you know, this is cloud-based software. You know, you could be on the beach and, you know, be reviewing your payroll or approving your invoices, you know, just blur out your background a little bit and you're good to go. But
just like yours right now.
But honest, but But honest, no, it's raining here, so
Oh.
not at the beach. But honestly, I mean, one of the most frustrating things is not having access to information that you need to do your job. And I've experienced that frustration, and I've had employees come to me with that frustration level because they can't get what they need because, again, it brings the field and the office together. And that's
Yeah.
so important in this industry because, you've got guys that are out there focused on, building, getting the job done, meeting deadlines, and all of those things that go along with managing a site. But, we still need the financial data so we know how the project's doing. And this gives everyone the ability to contribute and provide what they need so that everyone has access to it. And it alleviates a lot of frustration.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's definitely important, being able to access the system everywhere. John, anything additional you want to add to the topic?
Oh, sure. And following what Mary said, I mean, it's simple human nature. If I'm asked a question by my boss, I want to be able to give him an answer and not have to scurry around for it. It makes me feel good, when I'm going home that day for that day's work. And I think too often, people are told, oh, you're really valuable to me. Well, words only go so far. You got to prove it to them. Well, if you're really valuable, you're going to give them the best tools you can have. You wouldn't send a bunch of carpenters out there to start framing out walls and giving them hand saws. They're going to have skill saws. Well, it's the same thing with your back office staff, is that you're trying to treat them that same way. And when you extrapolate it further, they're going to talk to their friends about how they like where they work and what they do. And you never know who's listening or overhearing that doesn't need something built. And next thing you know, we always don't know where our leads come from, but it certainly could come from your employees. Better than saying, I hate my job, or, oh God, I got to go to work tomorrow. Then I wouldn't want to go to that company and say, hey, can you build me something? So that's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Joel, have you heard anything else on kind of retaining and or even attracting new folks just by having something like Acumatica in place?
Yeah, the technology is definitely one of the primary reasons, and this is a great topic too, because at a recent conference, 75% of the people are worried about how they can attract and keep that labor, right? The skilled labor is coming through. How do we keep them there? What I saw a couple companies do, whether it's in Acumatica or technology itself, think of a gamification, right? Everybody's trying to one up each other, or if Bob's doing a better job at something than Bill, well, then Bill's going to look at it. So some people have implemented the gamification side, where maybe it's around safety incidents or learning safety or the number of issues that appear. And now being able to visualize that gives that younger worker or those folks now the competition to go through. And you see a lot of, whether across the industry, a lot more of that gamification of different statistics to really bring that younger workforce in and retain them. Because just like everybody said, if they've been born in the era of technology, they don't want to go back to the green screens of the 90s and such. So they want to come in and do things now. So it's how can we continually improve that experience, and what kind of things can come forward.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I think that's all the questions that I had today. I truly appreciate the panel for joining us. Let's check with Amy to see if there's any questions in the Q&A at the moment.
There is no questions right now. So if anybody wants to add some in, now's your chance. Or feel free to unmute yourself. I believe you can. If not, I can certainly unmute you and ask your question there.
Give them 30 seconds.
Quiet group. Feel like that's how it's always been lately.
It's true. It's true.
We covered
Well,
all the questions. That's why.
You did. You were
Yeah,
very
answered
thorough.
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, you're doing
Well,
this after
while-
lunch. Did you give them coffee before he got on?
Yeah, I hope so. Well, while we're waiting, again, just as a reminder, September 13th and 14th, acu-CONNECT is putting on their annual conference. We have a lot of great speakers. We have a lot of technical speakers this time. We've got sessions on reporting, workflows, all kinds of cool things that, we like to do for our clients. Being able to learn how to do those types of things for yourself. It's awesome. It's a great event. Like Donna mentioned, John Case, the CEO of Acumatica, will be doing, I believe, our closing speech at the end on the 14th. So I highly encourage everybody to register using the link that Donna provided on the chat, but also visit us on acu-connect.com. This is, we'll be sending out a recording to all of the participants. If you joined us, you registered and so forth, or you can find recordings of not only this, but our past panels and our past webinars with a lot of our other ISVs. So please, come join us, tell your friends, anyone that has, Acumatica or wants to learn about it. This is a great group of individuals with all kinds of experience with Acumatica. And again, I just want to thank the panel, Joel, John, Mary, Daniel. Thank you for coming. Donna, thank you for helping me co-host, and Amy for controlling the Zoom.
Sure,
But
thank you.
thanks, everybody. Have
Thanks,
a great
everyone.
day.
All right.
Take
Good
care.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Guys.
Bye.